Greetings, nerds. This is SNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday to you, too. Just a note for our listeners. We are, unfortunately, due to scheduling and family obligations, we are scheduling a 2-week hiatus?
Yeah.
2-3-week hiatus? Yeah. So we're going to have this show and then another show next Thursday evening as well. But then we're going to go on break for a bit due to me and Will having inadvertently scheduled things on separate weeks.
Yep. Yeah, but we'll
time for Loki.
Just in time for exactly. We planned. Yeah, whenever we set these things up, we had no idea when Loki was going to start. So
right, but, and the date kept changing. So
and it kept bouncing around and stuff. But yeah, we have various things going on. We'll be back the last week of June. So.
Yeah.
So we will have a full slate of Loki talk.
All right, we got some headlines to go over. Few things off the top. I'm going to start with the random things that Will just added last minute. That we kind of sort of care about, but not really. Steven and Robbie Amell are filming a Code 8 sequel because so many people checked it out. Not really. Mission Impossible 7 production shut down due to a COVID case. Was it Tom?
Yeah. It was. Yeah, that would have been funny if it actually had been Tom Cruise given the rant. And the only reason why I included this on here is just like, but the rant that he had, I guess a few months ago with the person not following the protocols and stuff, and then of course it happened. So and it's a reminder, folks, get your vaccine if you haven't, because we want to get out of this damn pandemic, and that's the only way we're going to do so. So get vaccinated.
Get vaccinated. Yeah. Donnie Yen is joining the cast of John Wick 4.
So he's that was a news item that dropped late this afternoon, and he's going to be joining the cast, playing a friend of Keanu Reeves' character John Wick, and plus I just love Donnie Yen, so I just thought that would be a cool thing to add, and to this, to Keanu's, continuing expansion of his various franchises.
Yep. And then in other casting news, Jonathan Majors is in talks to join Creed 3. I feel like that's pretty much confirmed.
Yeah, I think so. I think it is. I guess if they're following the bookends of like the original Rocky series, I guess Johnny Majors' character will be Clever Lang's son, I guess.
Oh man, I was listening to SNN earlier today, and I think it might have been an episode from earlier in the week, but I think it was, I forget who it was on the panel, but they said, what they might do is they actually might make it another offspring of Apollo.
Yep. Oh.
So it's brother versus brother.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. Now that's a story beat I would like.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
And Jonathan Majors, I mean, he's gonna have a villainous turn in the MCU, but right now I just know him as a hero. So.
Yeah, I can't. I'm looking forward, to Ant-Man, given he's gonna be Kang in that film. So.
Yep. Speaking about MCU, the latest MCU rumor is Marvel's What If series is coming in August 2021. That means this August.
Yep.
Disney Plus. Great. They'll probably have 5 different premiere dates that will change, but it probably will be August. Makes sense.
Yeah. So I saw this, and then I saw another site that said, no, that's just people are trying to create something from an Entertainment Weekly article from several months ago with the potential lineup for shows on fall and summer on Disney Plus and other platforms. So, but if it's confirmed, I mean, that'll give us another 10 weeks of great Marvel content, and obviously I think one of the rumors was there's apparently a Party Thor episode of What If, so that'll be interesting to see if that rumor comes to fruition.
What if it happens? In other marvelous news, Sony Movie President has confirmed that this week that there is a plan. There is a plan to connect all of these to connect the MCU and Sony Pictures universe. They're talking about their villain universe.
Yeah, I guess they call their thing the Sony Pictures universe of Marvel characters.
Gross. It doesn't roll off the tongue.
It does not.
So that will get connected to the MCU because, we like to share. And it will all be unveiled in this December's Spider-Man No Way Home. No Way Home.
Yeah.
I have to say, I saw the poster this week on Twitter for No Way Home. I was pleasantly surprised to see that the portals are from Doctor Strange.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got this multiverse. Everybody's been saying Toby and Andrew are going to show up. So,
Yeah. I like that small detail, and as someone who probably shouldn't say that she's seen Doctor Strange, I've seen enough to pick up on that detail.
Yeah. There you go.
And this fall, I'm glad summer's here, the weather's nice, yada, 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 but I'm looking forward to some of this fall content we have in store. So.
Oh yeah, me too. It's gonna be a marvelous fall, and actually looking forward to going to the theater and watching Black Widow on the big screen and Shang-Chi and other things. So yeah, I'm there with you.
Yep. Unfortunately, what is not on our horizon, it will be a second season of the Netflix show Jupiter's Legacy.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess yesterday evening, there was a story where the Netflix basically canceled all the contracts for the cast and said, you're free to go, go forth and do your own thing. But they didn't call it a cancellation, but they might as well have called it a cancellation because that's what they did. But with that, they are going to create another show in the Jupiter's Legacy universe, but focusing on the villains. And then it gets even better. Today, the Hollywood Reporter showed the latest Nielsen numbers for the May premieres, and actually Jupiter's Legacy premiered on top for their premiere week, even doing better than Handmaid's Tale and some other shows. Yeah, I guess, Netflix is just weird with how they treat their properties.
Yeah, they create multiple superhero shows, and then because everyone made fun of when their big crossover, they just ended up canceling.
Yeah.
Well, that and Disney Plus, but
yeah.
No. Sorry, just a random note about Handmaid's Tale. Because right before getting on, I was actually watching the latest episode, and I was pleasantly surprised to see that Elizabeth Moss had directed that episode.
Huh.
I did not know. These days, I shouldn't be surprised because the longer running the show is, the more likely some of the lead cast members will get behind the camera.
Mm-hmm.
You see that happen all the time with the CW shows.
Yep.
So, but I still didn't think she was even interested in that, and I actually was making note of some of the interesting camera angles that they were using.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, what were your overall impressions of her work as a director?
As a director, I didn't even, like, I thought it was a really well executed episode. And it was I want to say, oddly enough, it was kind of a quiet episode. But there was a lot of emotional stuff, because it was about testimony. I have a weird dynamic with that show. I feel like I didn't even watch season 2. I fully watched season 3. I've watched half of season 4 and the later half. So A Handmaid's Tale is a weird show where I feel like I can go in and out.
Yeah.
Because sometimes there are a lot of things I just fast forward because I don't like torture.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, everyone.
Oh, well. Hey, you don't have to, there's no requirement for you to, like, punch yourself through any kind of scenes that make you feel uncomfortable.
Right, which is weird because that show goes from, like, horribly graphic torture scenes to scenes where I will just sit here and I will start to cry because of the emotional drama. And man, the third season finale, like, just thinking about some of the stuff that happens, it still makes me, like, get teary-eyed. Like, damn. Anyways, we're not here to listen to me cry. I think we've covered all of the headlines.
Yeah, I think we covered them all. But
So we do have 2 shows to talk about tonight because I did my homework. We have Superman and Lois and Invincible. Let's talk some Invincible.
Okay.
I watched it.
You watched? So did I. I think I finished it before. I think I watched. Yeah, I finished it. I guess 2 weeks ago.
So now the tables have turned because we are talking about a show that you haven't watched in a while, and I just watched. Although I watched it, like, I finished it 4 days ago. So, okay. Here my overall thoughts is, I think because it was never on my radar of something to watch, but I know we needed content. It's like my experience viewing it is kind of masked under this, I have to watch this. But the first half of the season, I just could not get into it at all. Mm-hmm. So I mainly had it on in the background while I was doing other things. I'm going to be perfectly honest about my viewing experience. Yeah. And then right around the time when they introduced, what was his name? Titan. The Titan episode. I think it's like the 4th or 5th episode. Yep. That one started to pick things up. However, I still don't really feel like I've really sat down and watched a full episode without being distracted until the finale. And the finale is when it dawned on me why they could never do this in live action.
Yeah. So it was actually
don't do this.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you say about your viewing experience, because I think when this show premiered, it was. I mean, Amazon did not do the Netflix thing with this show either. They actually did release it over a span of 8 weeks, and it overlapped with Falcon and Winter Soldier. So I started it, and like you, I couldn't get into it when I first time I watched it, because I felt that there were a lot of tropes that were very similar to other shows in the genre. I mean, we had, you had the Guardians of the Globe, which, obviously is a riff on the Justice League. And of course we,
Yes.
we saw that too with the group in Jupiter's Legacy. And,
Yep.
and so, and so, so obviously, Robert Kirkman, who had a stint at Marvel, before spinning off and, start and doing Walking Dead and Invincible and stuff with Image Comics. It's hard, I think, for these types of properties to build a universe whenever you've had, we have these two titans, to build on that. And so what I did like about this series at the outset was Omni-Man killing all the other Guardians of the Globe. And so that was the hook that was able to get me in it, but not in it to the point where I was just like, oh, I gotta where I was like Falcon and Winter Soldier and other things. I was just like, I can't wait, became like appointment TV for me. This one was one where I was like, okay, I kind of put it to the back burner, and then I picked it up again. Actually, I think, after Falcon and Winter Soldier ended, and then a lot of people were listening to watching shows like SEN and other, Blurs in the Hood and other shows, really talking about the finale. So
Right.
With this finale, to your point, with the finale talk really got me pulled back in, like, oh shit, I feel like I'm missing out on something. So that's what got me back into this. And then once I did start it up again, you're right. It still took me a bit until about that third or fourth episode where I was like, okay, now I'm getting invested.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. The struggle is with this oversaturation of this particular genre. And especially right now, as things are being dropped and put and aired, we go into a show like this, and instantly I think about Miles Morales in Spider-Man, just because it's a very similar origin story, because the main character and Miles are so similar in their approach and perspective on power and being a superhero and what they have to learn, and even arguably some of the interactions that they have with their family. Thinking about the Prowler in Into the Spider-Verse. So I found like their past to be very similar, and like I've already seen this, and arguably I've seen it done better. And then on top of that, this show does attempt to build that world and that reality that there are superheroes everywhere. And there are these leagues and this code, and oh my God, we just talked about Jupiter's Legacy.
Yep.
We just watched that. So it's very hard, and we've had this struggle for a while. I mean, you can't not compare them because everything is so relevant. In talking about the CW verse, we do nothing but compare those shows because it is just, they're all part of this universe and this genre, which pulls inspiration. But what ultimately does either retain an audience is to do those tropes, but just provide enough spin where you're intrigued about, okay, well, what are they going to do next year? And I don't know for certain if I'm intrigued. I just felt like the finale was very satisfying.
I completely agree that that finale, the one thing about the finale that I thought was really phenomenal, beyond the obvious violence and gore, was the like in your show notes you make a point that the you could not pull this off in live action.
You could try.
You could try, but you're probably going to rate it X if you did so. because and that's the thing, I think, where, when you see all the carnage and stuff in a movie like Man of Steel, when Zod and Superman were fighting it out in Metropolis, and of course all the things we saw in the Avengers with with the Battle of New York. The thing that this show does that makes it stand out is, one, it definitely, it doesn't, it shows the carnage and how bystanders do get killed, and they bring it out full force in this, and then the thing that I guess that really stood out to me also was when Mark and Omni-Man were having their fight, and it ended up with Mark getting his ass handed to him, and Omni-Man almost killing his own son. Was the moment of the humanity had gotten inside of Omni-Man, and when he was thinking about Mark, he has that little moment where he goes back and thinks about Mark as a child, and playing baseball and trying to achieve it, and that's what stops him from killing him. And that was really the one. That's probably the standout moment in the whole series for me. With even though the Viltrumites had this ultimate goal of conquering things in the universe, his time, Omni-Man's time on Earth had tainted him, I guess, as far as his Viltrumite lineage and code, to the point where he stops from killing Mark, and then he departs and goes off and to who knows where. So
right. I still think that, because I had a different opinion about that scene. I saw what they were doing and it made sense, but I also felt like it came at a very bizarre time. I would have thought he would have had that epiphany maybe a little bit earlier on in the fight. But I also understand that they really wanted to show, no, he was one punch away.
Yeah.
So I get that to an extent, but overall with Omni-Man, between the first what happens at the end of the first episode and the finale, his character overall is very inconsistent. Because we know he's hiding the secret, and there is some truth to what he tries to explain to Mark during the finale, and what he even tries to explain to his wife at points. But it's weird to me how, no, you still really haven't explained though why exactly you killed everyone. You and also you not only killed everyone, you then hid it for weeks, only to suddenly have to, because people found out that you killed them, now you're going to kill your son? I'm trying to figure out what the overall plan was, which may have been something that they could have dropped a hint of, there was a purpose for killing everyone in that moment, and I don't think we got that resolution for exactly why.
Yeah. Well, again, this first season was only a start, an introduction, to the series. I mean, the show it was renewed for a second and third season. So, I was watching Kirkman on Batman and Beyond with Mark Bernardin and Kevin Smith, and he was, or maybe it was another show, but basically it was only this first season only got a quarter of a way into the comic. So I think there's a lot of those things that, as the story unfolds, we'll get answers to some of the questions that you had as far as some of the motivations and those types of things.
Yeah, which is a smart move. I mean, you don't want to play all of your cards in the first season, and you definitely, the first season is mainly about Mark and his realization about what being a hero is, and also some of the truth of who his father really is.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's, we'll see what happens when the second season drops and what other shows are being aired.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I guess we'll be in 2022 or so whenever we get the second season. So, we'll see what's on the horizon.
Yeah, speaking about aliens and being our heroes and also weapons, we had the latest episode of Superman and Lois drop. Will, what are your thoughts about this episode?
So, this show, I really, 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 really like it. It's basically a family show wrapped into, and not family in the sense of like, everybody can sit down and around the table and, and watch it together. I mean, I guess you can, but I mean, they take a lot of mature themes and wrap it around in the superhero universe. And one of the things that I think really stands out for me with this series is it really shows Clark Kent is the focal point, not Superman. I mean, it really is. There's always a question of which personality is the true personality. Is it Clark Kent, the true personality, and Superman is not, or is Superman the true personality and Clark Kent's the mask? And I think the way this show really puts it out there is Clark Kent is the true personality and Superman is the mask. And I think all the things that we've been seeing in this first season really have, of him, especially being a father and dealing with the issues of fatherhood, but also having his responsibility as Superman. They've done a really artful job of sharing that, showing that this first season.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you make some very valid points, especially after this particular episode, which surprisingly, I think maybe Tyler had maybe 10 minutes of screen time?
Yeah. Yeah.
This was Lois, and which I was very surprised by. I like the choice of changing up the structure of the episode. We've been getting a lot of episodes that are very structured similarly, and this week giving us a scene for something that happens a good 3/4 of the way through the episode and then replaying how it came to that, I thought was a brilliant choice. I like this episode proves my point that I had last week. Okay. The actor who plays Jonathan is just a better actor overall, because him and Lois have, and I've seen Twitter and I will quote it, but people say one of the best acted scenes that the CW has ever aired.
Yeah.
And I agree. Their fight and both of their perspectives. I like how this show had enough awareness to we've seen Jordan and Clark fight about powers and the responsibilities, and we've seen that in other things. But for the first time, we have this real, authentic, vulnerable fight about what it means to be a human in a family of superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
And the vulnerability of that, and the feeling that you can't help or protect. And then they one-upped it, Will. They one-upped it, and they talked about a miscarriage.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, damn.
Yeah.
Where is this in the Flash?
I was thinking the same thing. The other shows could not carry this off, and that's what I meant by it's a more mature and a family, really tackling serious issues in a mature and not goofy way.
Right.
And I'm okay. Goofy's fun. It is, and the Flash's tone is supposed to be more light and stuff, but yeah, I mean, again, just move this show over to the HBO Max already, because it's out of place on the CW at this point. I feel in some regards.
Yeah, it's definitely very, very mature. I I really liked this episode overall. I liked John Henry Irons and everyone coming to terms with him and his story, and how at the end of the day, it's not, they didn't sew everything up. They were forced to kind of work together in a way, and Lois really saved the day. But I also like the maturity at the end between him and Lois, where he acknowledges that she's not his Lois.
Right.
Because that would have been such the typical thing to do, to carry this on, and him being a crazy person and still thinking, no, you are. But no, he's intelligent enough to say, no, I get it, but I still can't let what happened to my Earth go completely. So I thought that there was just a lot of overall logical choices, which, and I don't know if you keep thinking this, which every time they go back to Lana in some of the Lang storylines, like, I like the character of Sarah, not just because she shares my name, but because I think that they have some potential there, especially with her own depression issues. And they showed that in earlier episodes with Lana herself. But right now, I don't know. It's just it's so cheesy at points.
I think, I think with whenever, I mean, like this week, that was one of the, I like Sarah and the whole Lang story, and basically how they are using Lana to recruit the ex-Kryptonian soldiers for Morgan Edge. I mean, I like that angle of how they did the head fake with, whether it's all thinking Captain Luthor was going to be the big bad, but ultimately and Edge was just sort of a, going to be a, there, but whatever he was doing was going to be the secondary point. But obviously the big thing is the soldiers being created, and John Henry's worries that Clark is going to become the leader of those Kryptonian characters on Earth Prime. And so, so I thought, so I'm liking how they're using them. I know there is the whole family dynamics going on there, but especially, because it seemed that Kyle and Lana had really mended things. And then, of course, Lana was, kept pushing him off when, he wanted to leave the fire department and go work for Edge. And then, that got kind of blown up this week with, when, he was, told that by, I'm blanking on the character's name right now, Lars, or I think, I can't remember. Yeah, but anyway, so, so those elements work, and, it does help build a sense of community for the show, as far as, instead of it being, big metropolis and you just, encounter people once and then you would never see them again. It shows how everything is sort of intertwined in this community. So I like that aspect of it. The thing that kind of got me this week was I felt that the John Henry story, I hated the resolution. I felt like we were getting more info about him, and we saw his life with Lois, whenever she and Jonathan were looking at the, computer, and then just when he and Superman finally have their confrontation moment, he packs up and goes off to parts unknown for now. I mean, we know he's going to be back.
Right.
But, I guess, I could go both ways on it. I mean, on the one hand, I was disappointed because I really liked that character.
Right.
But on the other hand, narratively, I see why he had to go at this point in the story, because they had addressed the underlying issues and so they had to push him off for now.
Yeah, it's kind of like, but you spent all this time developing it, and now we're here, and we're saying goodbye already. Like,
yeah.
and you're right. I mean, it's pretty telegraphed. No, he's going to be back later on because they haven't won yet.
Mm-hmm.
And but at the same time, I'd rather them do that development now, put him off to the side, and bring him back in when needed, so that it doesn't feel like later on in the season we have to suddenly get to know this character,
right?
All over again. So it's interesting. I mean, I think some of the fear is also, oh wait, now we only have Maxwell. He's not that interesting.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but who knows who they'll bring on, and really the drama and the stakes are not coming from these villains so much as the family bond and the dynamics, and how Jonathan, how John Henry Irons affected this dynamic between Jonathan and Lois, and ultimately Lois and Clark too, and which is it's interesting. We didn't really hear a lot from Clark about his whole perspective on the miscarriage.
No, but I think that was very wise of them to do it. That they didn't. He was there, especially when you think about, they learn that in the other Earth, this John Henry's daughter is Natalie. They were planning on naming their daughter Natalie. I mean, he said enough in that moment, I think, when after Lois confides in him about how she had ripped into Jonathan about things. He was the understanding husband.
Right.
And realize that even though, yes, it was a loss for the both of them, there's just the next level loss that he will never ever comprehend and understand, that what Lois went through and lose with the miscarriage. And hats off to Elizabeth Tulloch. I mean, I don't know her personal history or story or anything like that, but just the honesty and the portrayal of that type of loss, and the scene with those scenes which she had with the therapist, it was just the honesty and a humanity that came across in her portrayal of Lois, and just the sincerity that was so convincing, so that when, like to your earlier point about there's the apology that Jonathan and Lois had, it added to that scene as far as just really being believable that you have two individuals who, in the heat of the moment, deeper context to her reacting the way that she did with Jonathan, and Jonathan responding the way that he did whenever she did offer the apology. And it also goes into the larger theme that they talked about in earlier shows about we're going to be an open family about everything.
Yeah, about everything, and I'm looking forward to seeing Jonathan's path moving forward, because I can't imagine feeling that vulnerable and feeling honestly like a little just betrayed genetically, because it's like, wait, I'm his son too. Why does he get the powers and I don't? And now I don't understand half of my dad. More importantly, I don't. There's a part of my twin that I will never understand.
Yeah.
So, and I just hope they don't jump the shark and suddenly at the end of the season, Jonathan has powers.
I hope not. Or if it's a fluke thing, but I really hope not, because I like the pairings that they have, and really opens up a lot of great avenues for storytelling, having a blended family of superheroes and not superheroes, superpowered people and non-superpowered people.
Right. Wow. I don't know. I think that's it for us tonight, Will.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of good ground, and and then of course next week we have Loki will be here, so we will have lots to talk about with that first episode.
Let's just clarify. Loki will not actually be talking to Will and I.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about Loki.
Yeah, sorry, y'all. Didn't mean to tease y'all. I think we were having Tom Hiddleston here. We will try. If we do, though, you will know it.
Yes. We will be talking Loki and all of his mischievousness, and probably Superman and Lois is airing again next week, right?
Yes, we'll continue our discussions of the Kents.
Yep. All right. Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at Will M. Polk, WILLMPOLK.
And you can find me at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at CNN Nerd. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, but most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.